I unlocked the door without thinking about it. My hand knew the weight of the key better than my mind knew the reason I had come back. The house opened the same way it always had, with a soft resistance, like it needed a moment to recognize me. The air inside was cool, unmoving, not cold, just still. The kind of stillness that settles when a place has been waiting longer than it expected to. I stood in the doorway and didn't step in right away. The light from outside stretched across the floorboards, stopping just short of the hallway. Dust floated through it slowly, like it had nowhere else to be. It had been months since the funeral, long enough for people to stop asking how I was doing, long enough for the world to move forward without her name in its mouth. But the house hadn't moved at all. It was exactly as she'd left it, as if she might return at any moment and notice if something was out of place. I closed the door behind me. The sound was quiet, but it echoed longer than it should have. The house had always been quiet, even when she was alive. Not lonely, just careful. She didn't fill rooms with noise. She filled them with presence. You always knew where she was, even when she wasn't speaking, especially then. I set my bag down by the wall and took off my coat. The hook creaked as I hung it, the same small protest it had made for years. She used to say it needed oil. She never oiled it. The living room looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I had grown into someone who took up more space. The couch was still covered with the same pale quilt, folded the way she liked. Corners tucked in, pattern facing up. The lamp beside it was off. She never turned it on during the day. Daylight is enough, she used to say. I walked past the couch without sitting down. I wasn't ready for stillness that close. The floorboards knew me. They spoke under my weight, low and familiar, like they were reminding each other that I belonged there once. Each step felt louder than it needed to be. I found myself walking slower, softer, the way I used to when I came home late and didn't want to wake her. The hallway smelled faintly of soap and old paper. That smell had followed her everywhere, even my clothes sometimes, even after she was gone. I stopped in front of the mirror halfway down the hall. It was narrow, framed in dark wood, a little crooked. She never fixed it. Said it made the house feel honest. The person looking back at me felt like a guest. I didn't recognize the tiredness in my eyes, or maybe I did and didn't want to admit it. For a moment, I almost expected her to appear behind me, adjusting the collar of my coat, saying nothing. She was good at saying nothing in ways that mattered. Her bedroom door was closed. That was new. She never closed doors, not even when she slept. She said closed doors trapped air, trapped thoughts. I stood there longer than I meant to, my hand hovering inches from the knob. I didn't open it. Instead, I turned toward the kitchen. The kitchen felt warmer, though nothing had changed. The table was bare except for a small bowl with a single key inside it. I recognized that key. It belonged to the back cabinet, the one she rarely opened, the one she said was full of things that don't need attention. I sat at the table and rested my hands on the surface. The wood was smooth from years of quiet use. She ate slowly, thought between bites. I wondered how many meals she had taken alone at this table without ever feeling lonely. Or maybe she did feel lonely and simply didn't say so. The clock on the wall was still ticking. I hadn't realized how much sound it made until everything else stopped. I stayed there for a while, long enough for the light to shift across the floor, long enough for the house to stop holding its breath around me. My presence settled in, the way hers once had. Eventually, I stood and moved toward the cabinets, not with purpose, just with curiosity, the kind that doesn't know what it's looking for, but knows it's ready to find something. The back cabinet was exactly where it had always been, tucked slightly out of sight. I knelt and used the key from the bowl. The lock clicked softly, like it was relieved to be useful again. Inside were neatly stacked boxes, Old receipts, manuals for appliances she no longer owned, everything labeled in her handwriting, careful even, restrained. She liked order because it kept things quiet. I closed the cabinet and stood up. Whatever I was looking for wasn't there. The house seemed to accept that. I moved room by room after that, not searching so much as remembering. Her chair by the window, the stack of books she never finished, the radio she kept tuned to the same station for years. Each object felt like a sentence she had started and trusted time to complete. By the time I reached the small room at the end of the hall, the one we used to call the spare room, the light outside had softened. Afternoon was turning toward evening. That room had always felt different, less lived in, more preserved. I stood in the doorway and let the quiet meet me. There was nothing wrong with the room. That was the strange part. No clutter, no neglect, just an absence that felt deliberate, as if the room existed only to hold something that wasn't meant to be used. I stepped inside and closed the door gently behind me. The silence deepened. I didn't know then that this was where everything would begin. I didn't know that the house had been patient for a reason, that it had kept its quiet not to forget, but to remember correctly. At that moment, all I knew was that something in this house had been waiting longer than I had, and that I was finally still enough to hear it.